Hey, I'm Ari Lax, and I'm going to be recording with Merfolk in Modern today. This is a deck that kind of spent a lot of time as I don't even want to say fringe player. It was just like a deck that people played that lost a lot. Um, I've definitely made a lot of fun of this deck in the past. But recently it's been putting up a little more results. It did reasonably at the Pro Tour. It won a Grand Prix in Copenhagen last month and put another copy into the top 8 there. And if I remember correctly, it put a copy into the top 8 of the Invitational as well. And it's kind of like a big shift for the deck. And not a lot of it has to do with card choices, though a little bit of it is definitely, this deck had better card choices than it has in the past. A lot of it has to do with, how the metagame has changed. So I'm going to focus on what really shifted in the big picture to make this deck as good as it is now. So, looking at it, you can see the same Merfolk, it's the same cards. Master of the Pearl Trident was the last Merfolk that was printed for this deck, and that was, Magic 2013. I guess Tidebinder and Master of Waves are okay, but they're not, you know, core to the deck. The deck would still operate without them. The big change is that their last two banning periods, Birthing Pod and Deathrite Shaman, were both very good for the card Spreading Seas, which in turn is very good for this deck because it is definitely a Spreading Seas deck. So people used to be able to kind of just get under Spreading Seas with their mana creatures, or well, like specifically with Deathrite Shaman, it was that you could Spreading Seas their land and they still just make black and play Liliana and kill all of your creatures anyways. Um, Whereas now, without that card, you can actually Spreading Seas the Jund decks out. And without Pod, there's a lot less decks that are going to start on a turn 1 mana creature, though Collected Company is shifting that in the other direction. Pod was a little more powerful at doing what it did. And especially against this deck, a lot more powerful at a deck you're not going to beat in combat. You actually have to set up a combo to kill them. And Pod was a lot better at that than the Collected Company decks are. So that was the real big metagame shift for the deck. In terms of deck building, the big shift was not playing cards like Spell Pierce or Mana Leak, which are bad late game draws, bad with the general strategy of trying to put as much as you can on board as quickly as possible, which is really what the Lord strategy is really good at doing. People were too used to playing with Force Will and Daze and Legacy that they didn't stop and think about, hey, the fact that these cards are free means that they're the best answers, not the fact that they're counter spells. So this deck is playing spells that are, you can play all your lords and then play your answers. You don't have to keep up mana and sit and look at a hand that's like, oh, Lord, Mana Leak. What 2-drop do I play? You can just be like, Lord. Okay, you play something, Dismember, Vapor Snag at the next turn. Also worth noting that Relic of Vergenus is like one of these cards that whenever you get to play it in Modern in a deck, it's like really awesome if you get to main deck it. Tron, that's been a big part of its success, is that it gets to steal a lot of matchups with that card. There were tokens lists a few years back. I think, did Melissa DeTora, she got 9th at Grand Prix San Diego 2 years ago, 2013. I think she may have had that in her main deck. I know Tim Landale did at that event, and it was awesome. But I don't recall if she did. But that card's been great in tokens for a while. So there's like this nice mix of, disruptive spells you actually get to play that are good with the tap-out plan. Looking at the lands, there's this whole choke thing people have talked about. You get to, play Oboro and Minamo and Wanderwine Hub for free and actually just, beat people with choke with that. Not a huge concern. Not a lot of Cavern of Souls. There's a lot less counter magic in this format than in Legacy. No counterbalance, no Force of Will. And realistically, it's just, you don't want to get Blood Moon. You just, like, as minimal, have the non-basics play around choke rather than, the counter magic you don't really care about that people are going to board out against your Aether Vial deck anyways. Looking at the sideboard, some of the specific choices, you do have stack interaction against the combo decks. You are going to need that. You have Hibernation and Tidebinder Mage against the Collecting Company decks. Hibernation's also great against Bogles because they pick up their Bogle and then lose all of their wonderful white enchantments, which are the ones that matter against you. Spirit Link, Daybreak Cornet, Spirit Mantle's the other one too, and Ethereal Armor. You have Tectonic Edge over Ghost Quarter because you're also boarding that in to augment your capabilities of Spreading Seas against the fair decks. You can play Spreading Seas, and they play a couple more lands, they play a spell, and then they get their 4th land, and you kill one of their lands, they're cut off their 3rd color, and they're like, oh, well, this is horrible, and everything is never getting better because I'm dying to Lords. Also, Kira as a bit of a fair deck breaker. And another Master, because that card is at like an all-time high right now. Not dying. This is a card that got better after the Pro Tour, especially. Kolaghan's Command and Terminate took big boost in popularity. And Master of the Waves doesn't die to either. It doesn't die to Lightning Bolt. It doesn't die to Abrupt Decay. It's really good against Jund, is what I'm trying to say, and pretty good against Grixis Twin too, if you don't just get comboed out. But overall, this deck definitely has kind of like fallen into the right position of the metagame. And I'm interested to actually play some matches with it and see what it does against a bit more of a broad Magic Online spectrum than you might see at a refined day 2 of a Grand Prix.